Hey guys, welcome back to another Kinfolk Farm video. Appreciate you guys stopping by. I think this is going to be a kind of a short video and hopefully educational. This is going to be kind of where we should be with our muscadines in the month of June. Because I think the last video I put out was a pruning video back in February with our muscadines. So we are in June now. We just, I think June 3rd. And I just thought I'd give you guys an update on how our muscadines are doing and hopefully how you guys muscadines are doing. I've had a lot of people tell me over the past winter that they've been planting a lot of muscadines. I've been getting a lot of muscadine questions. So I will try to tell you what we're doing, show you what we're doing here on our farm and how we are progressing. So stick around. I think this will be a lot of fun. I'm sure it will be. Okay, basically on our farm, we have 4 stages of muscadines growing right now. We have a bunch of different varieties, but I call it 4 stages because I've planted these things in different years. These first 2 rows are 5-year-old plants. Now I did have to replace this one. I think the second year it had died for some reason and I had to replace it. But these 2 first rows are 5-year plants. These 4 rows here are 4-year-old plants, and I did have to replace this one this year. It died, and another one down on the end. So you will have some loss occasionally. The ones I take y'all to here in a minute, I planted 260 something plants this past winter. We'll show y'all that here shortly. I think I had 15 die out of there. So you will have a few die. But I just wanted to show you guys the progression over the years of how your fruit how your plants should be looking. So these are our 5-year-old plants and they really look good. Now this was all just a hobby when I started this. I just did these 2 rows and I went muscadine, scuppernong. So all these are purple, all these are green and bronze. And then I just did the same thing, muscadine, scuppernong, muscadine, scuppernong, all the way down. And I was just playing with it. I did these 2 rows and I thought, dang, I still got more room. So I planted 4 more rows. Then we had the pasture. We planted 5 more rows, and then this I skipped a year, and then this past winter I planted the whole pasture. So you guys that have had plants for a while, if you pruned them correctly this winter, which hopefully you did, pruning is really essential to growing lots of grapes. This is the way they should look. They should be thick and lush and just full, depending on where you're at, little pollen pods, the little flowers that'll be opening up soon, hopefully. We have these jokers just everywhere. There's a few opening up. I don't know if you can see them right there in the top. There's a few opening up. So just looking good. And we have had some plants that the pollen, the little pods hadn't opened up. And that could be due to lack of water if we didn't water them correctly, because muscadines need a lot of water. I think it's 35 gallons a week. That's what we try to shoot for. So hopefully, the way I've been watering them this year, hopefully they'll all open up, get pollinated really well, and produce tons of fruit. Okay, another thing, we talk about watering our plants. We have an irrigation system that we run on all our plants. We have a bottom wire that we run our irrigation on. And your first few years, you really just need these half-gallon emitters about 12 inches from your plant, because that's basically where your root ball is going to be, where you plant your plant. But as these plants start growing out, the roots start getting further and further out. Say for instance, this one, I hadn't finished these up yet, but this one has one 12 inches. We went out another few feet and started adding them further down the rows. So that way we have 2 there, 1 there, 1 there. And we're just sort of stretching our water out to get those roots that have went further out on the plant, just so we can get better water to all our plants. Now as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4 rows, these are our 4-year-old plants, and they're really looking good. Now here's something I need to do right here. You see this main trunk? I try not to let any growth come up that main trunk of the tree. And I'll just snap these off I need to go through here and double check all these, but I'll snap all this from the main trunk down. I try to keep everything nice and clean because this is just unwanted growth. I want my growth going down the wire and growing my grapes. I don't want anything on that main trunk, just a little tip. All right, again, these 4-year-old plants look just about as good as the 5-year-old plants. They really grow super fast. It won't be long. We'll have to come through and do what I call a little summer pruning, because you can see these right here won't be long. They'll grow all the way to the grass and they'll start reaching out. And as you cut grass, your lawnmower can grab them and rip them off the main vine, and that is not good. Ain't that right, buddy? That is not good. And as you can see, we got our water going. We water quite a lot. We have half-gallon emitters, half-gallon per hour emitters. That way we know we're getting a gallon per hour. We can sort of keep up with how much water our plants are getting. Really, really simple. And if you guys have any questions about our weed control, as you can see, we started out with the black fabric, the black weed fabric, but my gosh, it's expensive. It's expensive, and it's just, I like it, but I don't. It's a pain, and it's a pain. You gotta fit it through every plant, and then it tears. The lawnmower catches it, and so that doesn't do it any good. It's just not good. It's okay. I don't want to say it's not good. It's good, but it can be a pain. We do spray. A product called Killzall to keep weed control for our plants as best as we can, because your weeds will compete with your grapes. Your grapes have a hard time competing with all these heavy weeds, especially for the amount of fertilizer we put on these things. We put a ton of fertilizer on these things every year. So we are not an organic grower. We are not an organic grower. So if you guys have any questions about that, and I know you're going to have 1,000 comments about things we should be using, I'm just sticking with what I know. I don't want to put anything on my plants that may kill my plants. I've had tons of comments, people telling me to use this, use that. And if I was to spray my plants or spray something on here that kills my plants, I would be highly upset. Let's see all this extra growth. This is how fast they grow. Look at this. This is off this trunk. And I came through here and cleaned just a few weeks ago. And look at that. That is 3 foot of growth, and already putting on the little pollen pods. So I'll snap that off. Just snap that off. We don't want anything growing on that trunk. That's amazing how fast they grow. All right, I don't know if you can see that little bug right there, but that is a Japanese beetle. That is a Japanese beetle. And they fly around everywhere and drive you nuts. They are our biggest pest problem here on the farm. Growing muscadines, you just sort of can pinch them. You can pinch them and squish them. But I do that every time I see one. I'm sitting here looking for them now. I do that when I see them. We're just starting to see them. For you guys that are growing muscadines, keep an eye out for them, especially your newer muscadines. These bigger muscadines can handle them because they will come and eat up the leaves of your muscadines, which helps slow the growth on your muscadines. Plus, they're notorious for eating the tips of your vines. Now, this is where you get your growth from your vine, your tip. So say for instance, if I want this long vine right here to quit growing, I just pinch the tip. I pinch the tip and that vine will quit growing. It'll put out another spur somewhere, it'll put out another little vine, maybe down further, but it'll stop the growth. Now when you have a smaller vine, say for instance, this one, we planted this one this year. If you have a smaller vine coming up and you're wanting this to run down the wire, if he eats that, it stops it. So the first year you're hoping, which we're doing great right now, this one's almost to the end. If one of these Japanese beetles come and eats the tip of this, it'll stop, and so we'll have to start all over. And so your plant can turn out looking like a bush instead of a vine. You want it growing 10 foot each direction. If these beetles come and eat the tip of that plant, which that's what they're after mostly, they love the leaves, but they'll come and hit the tips of them plants, and it stops the growth, and you got to start all over as far as waiting for your plant to go down the vine. And that's a really long year if you're a grower, because you're constantly watching your plants to see how they're progressing, and it just takes them forever to get down this vine. This is nice. We pruned here this winter. I try to cut everything at the post, and you can see how far they've grown out so far since February. Well, they started growing, let's see, around March, something like that. So it's only been a couple of months. They're really growing fast, really looking good. But Japanese beetles, a huge problem. I'll show you what we do for the Japanese beetles. Okay guys, to deal with our Japanese beetle problem, we do two different things. One, we do spray. We spray a product, 7 Dust. We just use a 7 Dust, a liquid 7 Dust. We spray mostly on our newer plants. I try my hardest not to spray on the older plants because they can take it. Unless I see it becoming a huge problem, I may give them 1 dose. But I definitely do not like to spray. Look at all these little pollen sacs popping open. You can see them popping open right there. But I definitely don't like to spray this time of year when these pollen sacs are opening up. And I like to wait till I have some. If I have some little berries on here, I'll go ahead and spray. But for me, this is way too early to be spraying for Japanese beetles. So I don't want to disturb anything when it comes to making my grapes. So what I use is a Spectracide Bag-A-Bug. I've been using these things for a few years, and my gosh, they are fantastic. For you guys that are gardening, we had a bad problem with our beans too. They would eat up our beans. These Japanese beetles eat up everything. These things are awesome. You can find them on Amazon. I thought they'd be cheaper on Amazon. I found some at Tractor Supply as well, and I think they were $5 a piece at Tractor Supply. They give you a couple of extra bags, so if the bags fill up, because you will catch an absolute load of these Japanese beetles. It is amazing how many of these things will attract into this little trap. These things are just mind-blowing. You just don't realize how many beetles are out here till you put one of these out. We're going to put out 5. I'm going to put 2 here and 3 more in the big muscadine vineyard across from us. But they work really well. Spectracide Bag-A-Bug, go get you some if you have beetle problems. If you're a little further north from us, you may not have them yet, because we're just now starting to see these Japanese beetles. But these work really well. Well, they're relatively easy to put together. They come with these 2 little flaps. You just sort of slide them together. You have your bag. Give you a couple of bags. You just sort of hook them to the bag. It comes with a little bread type line here that you just sort of run through these holes, and you can twist it and adjust how high you want it. It also comes with this little trap scent thing here. It says a combo beetle trap combo lure. This is the most god-awful smelling thing ever. Really horrible. But I just sort of slide it right inside one of these slots. It says don't remove from the pack, because once you get that junk on your hands, it just does not come off. God, it's horrible. It smells, to me it smells like a urinal cake. For you guys, you know what I'm talking about. It smells like a nasty urinal cake. They're horrible. But it works great. I'm going to strap it right up here at the top of the chicken pen. That's basically it. The lure attracts them in. They will just zoom around this thing, and they'll try to land, and when they hit this plastic, they'll slide. They can't get any traction, slide right down in here and go to the bottom of the bag and die. And it works really well. I'll try to remember to keep you guys posted. And Okay, well, I showed you our 5-year-old plants and our 4-year-old plants. These are our 3-year-old plants. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows of them. Different varieties. We have 2 Supreme, an Ison, a Supreme, a Black Beauty. Just some really, really good eating grapes. The Isons are really, really good for making wines and jellies and stuff. But these are what we put in 3 years ago. We skipped a year. By the way, they're looking great. I think they're doing fantastic. There's just super growth. I mean, look at that. And that's after pruning just a few months ago. They're getting ready. It won't be long now. They are really looking good. Super excited. All the way down the rows are just beautiful. We had one that had a little die off right here. You'll have that. You'll have little problems. You guys know, grow. Same with a garden. Anything you grow, you're going to have some that die, some that do better than others, especially with these newer plants. Now we did 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, around 16 rows. It was 200 and something plants. I can't quite remember right off the top of my head, but some are growing better than others. I'm just sort of going to sort of bypass these. They're doing just as well as the others. They're just a year behind. We had a little hardship in the family the second year because we're on a budget just like everybody else. So we didn't get to plant and finish the vineyard up. But this year we just said we're going to hammer down and get this one done. So these are the first year plants that we grew this winter. All right, now we're caught up. And as I was saying, some plants will do better than others. And you can see this one right here is doing really, really well. It came up, we topped it. Of course, it split off from the side. We'll end up running this one down the wire that way, this one this way. And we'll fill up both sides. It really looks good. You can see down through there, we got some really, really good ones coming up. That one there, it'll run just great. But you will also have your disappointing vines. Like this one, for instance. I believe a deer has come through here and chopped this off because we are in the middle of the woods. I mean, we have just land. There's 50 acres right here that nobody hunts or anything. It's just loaded with deer. So we have deer problems. I think I'm gonna put some alarms out here for the deer. I tried that one year and I don't think the alarms work all that well. Once the deer get locked in, they're just locked in. But they don't bother our plants as much as you would actually think. They really don't. Even when we have grapes, but when the grapes come, it'll be deer season. So I hope they do come for the grapes. But they're doing really good. They're really, really doing good. One thing I like to do on your younger grapes, you'll see you get these little pollen pods, and they're trying to produce some grapes. I clip them off. I'm not sure if other people leave them on. I clip those off because I want the growth the first year just to focus on getting down the wire each way. I don't care if these plants put on grapes. I really don't want them to. I want them to grow the length of the vine, and the next year if we get grapes, good. The third year is when they really should put on a lot of fruit. But it looks like while everything's growing, we bought these one row at a time. I buy one week I would buy a set of plants, the next week I'd buy another set of plants, and so on and so forth. And then I've just bought a bunch bulk. But this one row right here just turned out to be a horrible row of plants. It was just, I think it was a bad batch because they are just not doing anything. They're just coming out of the tubes. They're really not doing anything, not much, but let's just keep an eye on them, keep watering them. It's a long growing season. It is a really long growing season down here in the south. Of course, we're battling the Japanese beetles. You can see how they come and just destroy the leaves on the plant. This is from Japanese beetles. They just get out here and they just pluck the tip of your plant. They stop the growth and they just don't grow. We've lost 15 of these plants out of 200 and something. I talked to Ison's Nursery. That's the people we buy our plants and stuff from. They're just great people. And they said that's a really good ratio because I think they have, when they do a big vineyard like this, I think they said it's like a 30% loss. And if you're less than 30%, you're in the chips. So look at this guy here. She is doing great. She is just, this is what you want out of your first year plant. You want them coming up and out the wire, and like I say, you got this little pollen sac here. I'm just going to pluck that off. Pluck this one off. A little small in there. Because I want them growing down the wire. This is a really good batch of grapes. Y'all see that? Just give them a little squish, and that wraps that up. So as I'm cutting grass or anything, if I see them, I stop and squish them. That's basically all you can do. We got some good growth out of this one. That's a good plant. This one here is going to be a rocket ship. Once it grabs that wire, it's going to take off both ways. We got some good plants out here. They're really, really doing good. I was trying to think of some questions you guys might have. I know one that stuck with me. I actually got this morning. Somebody asked, well, here's another problem we have. I'm glad we're out here walking around. We have armadillos. And we have an armadillo out here digging around a plant. That's what these tubes are for. Actually, they're for rabbits and rats and stuff. It's sort of for you guys that are wondering what these blue tubes are, they act as sort of a little mini greenhouse for your plants. Plus, they'll protect that little tiny stem from rabbits and rats and anything that may want to eat at that new growth. So these things are really nice to have. But of course, armadillos, they don't eat your plants, they just dig everything up. And we're doing a good armadillo hunt. But I had a lady ask about our T-post. She asked if the rust from the T-post affect our plants. And I thought that was a really good question because I never thought about that. But I don't think they will. For one thing, these things are painted really, really well. It's a long time before they start rusting. Most of your rust is going to be from when you banged them in the ground. But they last an absolute long, long time, that paint does. And when our plants are growing down the wire, every year we cut them to right here. This plant right here, we'll cut to right here in February. And then this one down here, we'll cut it to right here because I don't want it growing all in here. They will, I mean they will, they'll grow all into each other. But I just keep them cut every year, and all your grapes are going to be down this way. So it's not really going to affect your grapes, in my opinion. I don't think it's going to affect your grape, but I thought that was a really cool question. All right, well, I know this was not a hugely entertaining video, but I just thought it was one that I wanted to do just to show you guys, excuse me, where we're at. And I get a lot of questions about our muscadines. I really do, a lot. Leave some in the comments below. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below, and I'll do my best to answer them. I'm not a professional grower. I'm a hobby grower that just goes above and beyond. I just go overboard with everything I do. Muscadines are my absolute favorite fruit, so I had the land to put the muscadines out, so I just went crazy with them. Another thing is this is going to be a U-pick in a few years for us. We'll have people come out, pick muscadines, pay us by the pound, and this will be sort of little money that we can put back every year, making money off the farm. You know, it's really going to help out. But like I said, this wasn't a hugely entertaining video, but it was fun for me because I got to go around and do some things I needed to do. Keep a check on your Japanese beetles. For us, that's our biggest problem, is the Japanese beetles. Weed control, do what you can about your weeds. If you want to put weed barrier fabric down, if you want to spray, whatever you need to do to control your weeds, that really, really helps in the growth of your plants. As they get older, I could see where you can back off that because the plants are established. They got a huge root system. They can fend for themselves. And I think a lot of that with insect control too. But you'd be surprised, these Japanese beetles will come in, and we've had them come in to look like a cloud. We shook our bean tunnel before and just had them, looks like fog going across the field with all these Japanese beetles. They can really, really get out of control. Another thing I meant to tell you guys is those beetle traps. I know the wind's blowing now. We've had people say, put your traps in your gardens. It draws, you know, it catches the ones in your garden. We've also had people say, don't put them in your garden, put them way away from your garden because it draws the insects out of your garden. Well, we've been doing this for years and we've tried both. And I think our best results of catching the beetles were putting them in the garden. We put them in the garden and we were catching bagfuls of these things. When we put them out of the garden, way out of the garden, we would catch about a half a bag, and the garden would still be infested with Japanese beetles. So I put them fairly close. I put them right around the edge of the muscadines. This is where the beetles are at, so we're fighting beetles out of the muscadine vineyard. I think this works out better. But guys, sorry this wasn't so entertaining. I hope you learned something from this. I hope you're interested in growing muscadines. They're a southern grape, hands down to me, the best grape ever. I absolutely love muscadines. Go out this fall or this winter. Isons should be back selling muscadines. They told me around September. They should have their stock built back up, and September going gangbuster. That's about the time you start planting anytime anyway in the winter, you know, the fall and the winter. So I have a bunch I have to replace, so I'm waiting on them to get in September. We'll get our plants going again. So guys, be ready for that. Now's the perfect time to be getting your trellises built. You can put your post in the ground, get your wire, get your T-post in the ground. You get everything you need to do to get your trellises built right now. That way this fall and winter, you're not rushing to try to get your plants in. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. I hope this was entertaining. I'm sure it wasn't, because it was kind of boring to make, but I got to run around and get caught up in my muscadines. But guys, I appreciate it if you made it to the end of this video. I really do. I love you guys to death. Leave me a comment. Let me know if you made it to the end of this video. I'm really curious about that. Love you guys to death. We will see y'all on the next video. Thanks again.